Salvia, singing furniture. Salvia. I wrote most of this while I was still recovering and edited some of it later. Drug, Salvia divinorum leaf extract 20x. Dose, 1 bowl, 0.2 g. M.O.A, smoked. Duration, 10 minutes. The experience. I had a little bit of salvia left over from a while back and finally decided that tonight was the night. I sat up on my bed, packed a bowl of 20x and took a deep, slow hit of the product, held in for about 25 seconds. After the second hit I started feeling a little buzz. I had intended on taking 3 hits, but didn't want to make a mess, so I put the pipe down and lay down on my bed. After what seemed like a good 30 seconds, my body started to tingle, and I exhaled slowly. What followed was very hard to recall, but I'll try my best. The tingling quickly turned into a feeling of millions of ants walking on my skin. I started to feel like gravity was changing directions, and immediately felt like I was being pushed away from the lampside. The new place where I lay, still my bed in real life, was very cruel. All the objects around me were criticizing me for just being around, they didn't want me to be there. These objects seemed very peculiar, yet in real life they were simply everyday objects found in my room. I had completely lost the ability to recognize them. At some point, there was a change in mood and I felt a rushing feeling from one end of my body to the other end, like a powerful wave of warm water had hit me. Now I was starting to look at the objects surrounding me and, as weird as this sounds, I could actually predict very accurately what they tasted like. For example, I'd look at my wooden drawer, and could almost taste the wood on my tongue and in my nose. I can't remember what happened in between, but I remember the objects around me pleading that I sing for them. They sang for me the melody they wanted me to sing for them. It almost felt like it was crucial that they hear my voice, because, and this is where it gets hard to explain, it seemed like my physical body existed in a realm where these objects were unable to convey a message, but we both knew that my body was able. These objects around me had a message from their world that could otherwise not be transmitted, and like a ray of hope my consciousness, appeared somewhere in between both our worlds for a brief moment. I was amazed at what I had discovered, and for a brief second I thought that my trip was over, so I tried to document the trip on my laptop. Here is my first attempt at documenting the trip. Im Ridding very thid si the von Lelia life dwakolksum. I have no idea what the fuck I was trying to say. After I wrote this I lay back and contemplated the fact that I needed the objects around me as much as they needed me. It was like we needed to coexist for the world to be right, otherwise nothing would be the same. The stuff in between is too blurry for me to recall. This entire trip report was written within a few minutes of my trip, so I am currently still experiencing some of the effects: over-relaxed jaw muscles and tongue muscles, loss of balance, feeling of embarrassment, even though no humans are around me, and hyperhidrosis. At this point I'm drenched. The whole trip felt like overall 10 minutes, but it seems to be 1:52 a.m., and it still doesn't feel completely over. There are still some lingering thoughts, but they are getting blurrier as I type. Scary Salvia breakthrough. Last time ever. Salvia. So I am new to these communities, but have some reports to share which some may find interesting. I'd also like to hear of other people's experiences breaking through with salvia, especially any that are similar to this. Drugs taken, salvia, cannabis. At this point in my life I was fairly inexperienced with psychedelics, and had only taken low doses of mushrooms prior to this experience. This story is from about 10 years ago when I was 19, myself and a few friends had bought some salvia, can't remember the strength, maybe like 20x, from the local head shop. We went back to my mate's place and took turns loading the salvia into the bong. I was first to take a rip, and almost instantly after inhaling and breathing out it felt like my body was being pushed from the inside out, almost like I was splitting in half. After what was probably about 15 seconds of this, I remember feeling like I was drooling, leaned over to the right. A huge wave of intense fear and worry came over me, like I was in serious trouble. I looked around and could see I was lying half in and half out of my smashed up car, which was smashed through the front of someone's house. All I remember after this point was every single object from the house that I had ruined in the car crash was floating past me on a conveyor belt, almost showing me the pure devastation I had just caused. This lasted for what felt like an eternity, but eventually I popped back into reality where I was just leaned over to my right on the bed drooling and obviously looking shocked/scared as all my friends were looking at me and asking if I was okay. Apparently, while I was in there all I was doing was picking up various items in close proximity to me and looking at them before putting them down again. I've not touched salvia since this experience and probably won't touch it again. I have since had many experiences with LSD, mushrooms and chana, but nothing has come close to this. Please let me hear your experiences with salvia as I do find it a fascinating substance. Even in death I shall not be forgiven. Salvia. For a long time I never understood why people would say they didn't enjoy Salvia divinorum. Every trip I had, several dozen, were strange and unique. Ranging from becoming inanimate objects to being ripped and torn in different directions. I was convinced I would gain some kind of synergy with the universe or a greater understanding of myself and the concepts of time and infinity if only I pushed it a little farther. Then I had the trip. I put down the pipe after a bowl no larger than most and much smaller than my biggest. The overwhelming nature of this drug is always to be expected. This time all warmth and knowledge was devoid. All entities, whether physical or spiritual, everything that connects me to reality showed me I had made a mistake somewhere in my life, and now there is no going back. The undeniable truth I had discovered is that the afterlife does exist, and it's waiting for me inevitably. The terror I was going through at that moment became the real world, just under the surface but always there forever. The whole thing lasted maybe a few minutes, but it stuck with me for a week or more before it slowly faded. I thought it must be a fluke, like some flaw in my character had caused the negative feelings. I wanted to test it out and packed a very small bowl, just to see where it would take me, and was immediately thrust back into the incomprehensible darkness of all the worst parts of my soul, which at the end of things is all any of us really have. I cannot call it a true delusion, because I recognize or maybe hope it isn't true, but I have come to believe there is some kind of sentience contained within that plant. A sentience with very little patience for mortal beings and their fickle realities. I'm scared. Truly scared. I have gained knowledge I would rather not have. Salvia is the craziest thing ever. Salvia. I've finally been able to making a trip report. I was with my friend Hen. He said he heard some guy I know gave him a hit of salvia. I've been interested in it, so I go to the park where he's sitting on an oddly placed couch with two other guys. I ask him to hit his salvia, and he gives me his pipe and tells me to light it. I go behind the couch, it was windy, and take a hit. As I'm lighting, he tells me to keep pulling like some sort of mantra. After that, he takes a hit, and I take one more. I start feeling a weed type of buzz in my body until everything starts going diagonal, so I look up, and it's the most indescribable thing I have ever seen. I became a one-dimensional line, consisting of different colors. My vision became focused on the meeting point, a wall and floor created out of what I was seeing in front of me. I then basically was stuck in a tiny gap in the floor, except I was a line, the wall, and the floor. Naturally, I don't want to be the floor, so I try to get up, but every time I stand up reality branches off into a different timeline. Also, the whole time I was a vibrating line, my friend was telling me to sit down on the couch, which was now miles away. He was laughing, and I thought he had orchestrated this whole trip for me, like a trippy show of endless realities. He was the only thing that was clear in there. I thought he was some sort of god, like playing a game with me or something. Also, a side note, whenever I spoke it would sound like it was spoken through a fan. After, my friend told me his perspective of what I was actually doing. I got off the couch, put my head in a crack in a tree stump, then walked like 80 feet away. Anyway, yeah. Very strange indeed.